The phone rang at 3 in the morning, tearing through the quiet of my Seattle apartment, like a warning I could not ignore. "Ryan, you need to come to the hospital now. Mark's in critical condition after his heart attack, and the doctors aren't sure if he'll make it." My heart slammed against my ribs as I gripped the phone tighter, the voice of Tom, my other dad, shaking on the other end. I threw clothes into a bag, my mind racing back 11 years to the day the adoption agency had placed me with him at 16 after my biological parents in Idaho had cut me off completely. Back then, I had stood in their bright Portland living room staring at two men holding hands and telling me they were a couple ready to give me a home. "We know this might feel different," Mark had said gently, his kind eyes steady on mine. Different was an understatement. I had come from a world where two dads simply did not exist, and the shock had left me speechless for days. The drive from Seattle to Portland blurred past in a haze of rain and memories. I remembered the first awkward months adjusting to their routine Saturday farmers markets, Sunday brunches with friends who were also gay couples. Mark, a high school teacher, had helped me with homework, while Tom, the accountant, patiently explained why the world might not always understand our family. They never pushed me to talk about my own feelings, but I had always sensed they knew I was figuring things out. By college, I had moved to Seattle for graphic design work, burying any questions about myself under deadlines and casual dates that never lasted. Now at 28 with Mark, fighting for his life, everything felt fragile. When I burst through the hospital doors, Tom pulled me into a tight hug, his eyes red from crying. "He's stable for now, but the next 24 hours are critical," he whispered. We sat together in the waiting room, the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead while nurses moved quietly around us. Mark had always been the strong one, the one who coached my soccer team and showed up to every parent-teacher night, no matter what stares he got in our progressive but still judgmental neighborhood. Seeing him hooked to machines made the years melt away. I thought about how their love had quietly shaped me into someone who could stand on his own, even if I'd never fully admitted who I was to myself or them. The doctor finally let us in, and Mark's weak smile broke something inside me. "Hey, kiddo, you didn't have to drop everything," he rasped. But I had, and as I sat by his bed holding his hand, I realized this different family had become my whole world. The night stretched on with beeping monitors and whispered updates, and for the first time in years, I felt the weight of everything I had kept hidden pressing down harder than ever. By morning, the immediate danger had passed, but the road ahead looked long. Tom and I grabbed coffee in the cafeteria, talking in low voices about insurance bills and recovery plans. "He's going to need help at home for months," Tom said, his voice steady but tired. I nodded, already calculating how to rearrange my life. My boss back in Seattle had been understanding on the phone, but I knew the big client project I was leading would not wait forever. Still, none of that mattered next to the man who had chosen to raise me when no one else would. As the sun rose over the Portland skyline, I made a silent promise. Whatever it took, I would be there for him the way he had always been there for me. The weeks after Mark's heart attack settled into a new rhythm of hospital visits, physical therapy sessions, and quiet evenings at their Portland home. I had taken an extended leave from my design job, telling my team it was family emergency without going into details. Tom appreciated the help, but I could see the worry in his eyes every time the medical bills arrived. Mark slowly regained strength, walking short distances around the living room with a walker, his usual energetic laugh returning in small bursts. "You're spoiling me, rotten kid," he joked one afternoon as I helped him into his favorite chair. But beneath the humor, I felt the strain. Their savings had taken a hit, and the insurance company was dragging its feet on some procedures, citing pre-existing conditions from years earlier when Mark had faced discrimination at a previous job. I spent nights on my laptop researching options, my mind spinning with ideas that felt bigger than me. Liam, my boyfriend of 8 months, called every evening from his barista job in Seattle. We had met at a coffee shop near my office and fallen into an easy, comfortable relationship. But lately the distance and my reluctance to introduce him to Mark and Tom had created cracks. "When are you coming back, Ryan?" he asked one night, his voice tight. "I miss you, but I also miss feeling like we're in this together." I hesitated, staring at the framed photo on the mantle of the three of us at my college graduation. "Soon, I promise. Mark still needs me here." Liam sighed, the sound heavy with unspoken frustration. He wanted openness, I knew that, but bringing him into this family moment felt too raw, especially when I had never fully explained to Mark and Tom why my past relationships had never stuck. The truth was I'd spent years watching their love and wondering if I could ever have something as steady without the fear of disappointing them or the world. One weekend, Liam drove down, surprising me with takeout and a hug that lingered. Mark's eyes lit up when he saw us together in the kitchen. "So, this is the guy you've been talking about," he said, warmly extending a hand. Tom smiled too, pulling out extra plates. The evening passed with laughter and stories, but later when Liam and I were alone on the back porch, he turned to me. "They're great, Ryan. Why'd you kept me away for so long?" His question stung because I did not have a clean answer. Part of me still carried the old fear from my biological family's rejection, the sense that even in this different family, my own feelings might complicate things. We talked late into the night, and for the first time I admitted how much their acceptance had meant to me and how scared I was of losing it. Liam kissed me, softly promising patience, but I could see the doubt in his eyes. Back inside, Mark called me over for a late-night talk. "You know, Tom, and I have always wanted you to be happy exactly as you are," he said quietly. His words wrapped around me like a blanket, yet they also stirred the storm inside. The next morning, I made a decision. If helping Mark meant putting my life on hold, I would do it fully, no more hiding pieces of myself. Mark's recovery hit a rough patch when the cardiologist recommended an additional procedure the insurance still balked at covering. The stress showed in Tom's slumped shoulders and the way Mark tried to hide his pain during physical therapy. I watched them both one evening after a long day, and something shifted inside me. This family had taken me in when I had nowhere else to go, had celebrated every small victory, and stood by me through teenage rebellion. Now it was my turn to stand for them. I spent the next 2 days on the phone with lawyers and advocacy groups learning about options for LGBTQ families facing medical discrimination. The stories I heard mirrored our own, and a plan began to form. I would use my graphic design skills to create a public campaign sharing our adoption story and Mark's fight, not just for funds, but to highlight how families like ours were still fighting for equality. When I pitched the idea to Tom, he hesitated. "Are you sure you want to put yourself out there, Ryan? The world can be cruel." Mark overheard and squeezed my hand. "If it helps us and others like us, I'm all in." Their support gave me courage. I quit my Seattle job officially that afternoon, the decision landing with surprising peace. Liam was less understanding at first. "You're throwing away your career for this?" he asked during our video call, his face tight on the screen. Misunderstanding bloomed between us like a sudden storm. He felt sidelined, I felt judged. We argued until I hung up angry and alone in the guest room that had once been my teenage sanctuary. The next morning, I poured everything into the campaign, designing posters, writing the story of how 2 gay men had saved me and how I was now fighting to save one of them. I posted the first video on social media, my voice steady as I spoke directly to the camera about chosen family and the lengths we go to protect it. Within hours, likes and shares poured in, strangers from across the country commenting with their own stories. Donations trickled, then surged. Local news picked it up, and suddenly our quiet Portland home buzzed with calls from reporters and supporters. The attention brought both light and shadow. Old acquaintances from my Idaho past reached out, some with kindness, others with judgment that reopened old wounds. Liam texted an apology and drove down again, this time staying longer, helping me edit videos and answering calls. During a quiet moment, he pulled me close. "I get it now. This is who you are." His words healed the rift, and we sat with Mark and Tom sharing takeout while the campaign numbers climbed. The misunderstanding had tested us, but it also forced honesty I had avoided for too long. As Mark grew stronger each day, I felt myself growing too, shedding layers of fear I had carried since the day I arrived in this different family. The campaign exploded beyond anything I had imagined. National outlets ran segments featuring our story, and donations poured in enough to cover Mark's procedure and months of recovery. Strangers sent cards and messages saying our family had given them hope. Yet the spotlight also brought backlash. Online trolls attacked our family, calling it unnatural and questioning the adoption. One particularly vicious comment thread targeted me, directly accusing me of exploiting Mark's illness for attention. I sat on the porch one evening, scrolling through the hate my chest tight, until Tom joined me. "They don't know us, Ryan. We do." His simple wisdom steadied me. Mark recovered enough to join a local support group for LGBTQ parents, and he spoke openly about how my actions had strengthened him. "You gave me back more than my health kid," he told me during one of our walks. "You gave me pride in the family we built." Liam and I grew closer through the chaos. He moved some of his shifts to Portland, staying at the house and helping with everything from grocery runs to social media replies. One afternoon, while Mark napped, we sat in the backyard, talking about the future. "I was wrong to push you before," he admitted. "Seeing you fight for them showed me what real love looks like." We shared a quiet kiss, the kind that felt like coming home, and for the first time I introduced him publicly in a campaign update as my partner. The response was overwhelmingly positive, flooding us with messages of support. The internal crisis I had carried for years finally eased as I realized my identity did not diminish the love in this house, it added to it. Misunderstandings with Liam had taught me that hiding hurt more than any external judgment ever could. The turning point came when a major LGBTQ organization invited us to speak at a fundraiser. Mark insisted on going even though he still tired easily. On stage, I stood beside him, my voice strong, as I described the day. Two men had opened their home to a scared teenager, and how that choice had ripple effects none of us could have predicted. The audience rose in applause, and when I stepped down, Mark pulled me into a hug that said everything words could not. Back home that night, the four of us celebrated with pizza and laughed at the house, filled with a warmth that had been tested but never broken. The sacrifice of my career had opened doors I never knew existed, and the action I had taken for Mark had not only saved him, but had healed parts of me I had long ignored. With Mark's health steadily improving, the campaign shifted from emergency fundraising to long-term advocacy. I used the momentum to partner with foster care organizations, pushing for more inclusive policies. Interviews became routine, and I found myself sharing details I had once guarded closely, the fear, the growth, the love. Tom watched proudly from the sidelines while Liam handled logistics with quiet efficiency. One evening, after a particularly grueling day of meetings, Mark pulled me aside in the kitchen. "I never wanted you to give up your dreams for me, Ryan." His eyes were serious. I smiled, shaking my head. "This is my dream now, Dad. Helping families like ours." The word "dad" slipped out naturally, and the smile it brought to his face was worth every late night and lost promotion. The backlash had faded under the wave of support, and even some of my biological relatives reached out with cautious messages that I chose to answer with kindness rather than anger. Liam and I took a weekend away to the Oregon coast to breathe. Walking along the beach hand in hand, we talked about moving in together once things settled. "No more hiding," he said, and I agreed, the decision feeling right in every way. Back in Portland, the community had changed too. Neighbors who had once stared now waved, and the local paper ran a positive feature on our family. The misunderstandings and betrayals I had feared never materialized because the truth had brought us closer. I started freelancing from the home office. Mark helped me set up balancing advocacy work with design projects that actually mattered. The financial strain lifted as donations and new opportunities rolled in, and Mark returned to teaching part-time, his energy returning with each passing week. The real growth came in the quiet moments. Helping Mark with his exercises, listening to Tom's stories, and building a life with Liam all wove together into a tapestry I could not have imagined at 16. The action I had taken for my foster dad had rippled outward, touching strangers, friends, and most importantly, the people I loved most. I no longer questioned my place in this different family. I belonged here completely, and the sacrifice had shown me that love was not about perfection, but about showing up when it counted. Summer brought full recovery and new beginnings. Mark walked without assistance, his laugh echoing through the house as he planned fall classes. Tom and I surprised him with a backyard barbecue, inviting friends old and new. Liam fit seamlessly into the gathering, his hand in mine, as we grilled burgers and shared stories. Watching Mark chat animatedly with guests, I felt a deep sense of peace. The campaign had raised more than money, it had raised awareness, and our story had inspired policy changes at the state level. I had turned down several high-profile job offers, choosing instead to launch my own small studio focused on LGBTQ causes. The decision felt like the natural next step in the journey that had started with a late-night phone call. One evening as the sun set over the Portland Hills, the four of us sat on the porch. Mark raised his glass to Ryan for reminding us all what family really means. Tom nodded. Liam squeezed my hand, and I swallowed the lump in my throat. The years of internal conflict, the misunderstandings, the bold choices had all led to this moment of complete acceptance. My biological past no longer defined me. This different family, the one that had welcomed me with open hearts, had become my foundation and my future. Liam and I talked late into the night about rings and plans and the life we would build together, with Mark and Tom cheering us on. As I watched the stars appear, I understood that the real miracle was not just Mark's survival, but the way love had transformed every one of us. The action I had taken for my foster dad had not only saved him, it had saved me too, revealing strengths I never knew I had and connections I would cherish forever. The house that had once felt foreign now felt like home in every possible way, and the journey had taught me that chosen family could weather any storm. True or false? The family we choose through love and courage is always stronger than the one we are given by birth.